It was a warm evening, and we were out celebrating Luke's birthday at his favorite restaurant. The table was full, his friends, mine, laughter, clinking glasses. I had planned a small speech, just a little toast to say how much he meant to me. As I spoke, I felt my voice shake. My eyes welled up. I smiled through it, but the emotion was real. I loved him. At least, I thought I did. Luke leaned back in his chair and laughed loud enough for the whole table to hear. "Don't worry, guys," he said, smirking. "She cries if her coffee's too hot." People laughed. Not real laughter, awkward, confused. My cheeks burned. I laughed too, just a little, so it wouldn't be weird. But inside, I felt something twist. My heart dropped. I looked at him and saw something cold in his eyes, something that wasn't always there. Not at the start. He used to say he loved how emotional I was. He said I was deep, caring, soft in a world that was hard. He'd call me his sweet girl when I cried during movies. He'd hug me tight when something small made me sad. Now he made fun of it, like it was a weakness. I kept smiling for the rest of dinner. I made small talk. I listened and nodded. I acted like nothing happened, but my chest was tight. My stomach felt heavy. I wasn't just embarrassed, I was hurt. And not for the first time. He used to say I was special because I felt things deeply. Now he used those feelings like weapons. That joke at dinner wasn't just a joke. It was him showing me that I didn't matter anymore. Not really. Not the way I used to. He looked so proud of himself. He laughed again and leaned in to kiss my cheek like everything was fine. And I let him. But my mind was racing. My body was still, but my thoughts were loud. I realized something in that moment. I wasn't weak for feeling. I wasn't broken because I cared too much. I wasn't too emotional. I was human. And maybe he didn't know how to handle that. Or maybe he did, and he liked the control it gave him. I looked around the table and saw everyone smiling, chatting, drinking. They didn't know what had just happened. Not really. But I did. I looked back at Luke. He raised his glass and winked at me. That's when something inside me clicked. If he wanted to see me emotional, he would. But not like this. Not sad. Not small. Not quiet. No. Next time, I'd be strong. Calm. Clear. And I'd make sure he never forgot it. He laughed at my tears. But he was going to cry next. When I first met Luke, he was kind in a way that felt rare. He smiled with his whole face, asked questions like he really wanted to know me, and listened to every answer like it mattered. We met at a mutual friend's game night. He laughed at all my silly jokes, noticed when I got quiet, and even walked me to my car when it was over. A few days later, he messaged me just to say he hoped I had a good day. It felt easy with him from the start. He told me he liked how I noticed small things, how I paid attention to people's moods. He said it made me different, special. "You're so intuitive," he told me once while we sat on a park bench watching the sunset. "It's like you feel the world deeper than most people." I believed him. I thought he really saw me. He'd bring me my favorite snack when I was sad, even if it meant driving across town. He'd stay up all night on the phone if I was anxious or just needed to talk. He learned the songs I liked, sent me quotes he thought I'd love, and never forgot important dates. In those early days, he made me feel safe. But slowly, little things started to feel off. At first, it was small. He'd make a joke in front of others, something I didn't find funny, but he'd laugh and say, "Relax, it's just a joke." One time, I told him something personal, how certain smells reminded me of my childhood and made me emotional. He nodded, but later made fun of it to a friend when he thought I couldn't hear. It stung. When I told him how it made me feel, he rolled his eyes. "You're too sensitive," he said, brushing it off. He started cutting me off when I spoke about things that mattered to me. If I brought up something serious or emotional, he'd change the subject or scroll through his phone. I remember talking to him once about how I didn't feel heard. He smiled and said, "Maybe you just talk too much." I kept telling myself it was nothing, that all couples have moments like this. My friends told me not to overthink it. Guys are just like that sometimes, they said. So I let it go, again and again. But there was one moment I can't forget. We had gone out with friends. I was feeling a little off that day, but I tried my best to stay upbeat. On the way home, I told him I felt ignored at dinner, that I didn't like how he talked over me. He looked at me, annoyed, and said, "God, you always make everything about you. You ruin good nights with your drama." My heart sank. I didn't say anything for the rest of the ride. That night, I cried in the bathroom so he wouldn't hear. I thought about all the sweet things he used to say, about how he used to care. I asked myself what had changed. The next morning, he brought me coffee and kissed my forehead like nothing happened. I smiled and told him it was okay. But deep down, something had cracked. I didn't leave. I told myself everyone makes mistakes. That love is about patience, about staying even when things are hard. So I stayed. I forgave him. I kept holding on to the version of him I met at the beginning, the one who made me feel warm and seen. I didn't realize then how easy it is to mistake attention for love, how someone can know exactly what to say in the beginning and still not mean any of it. I thought he valued my heart. I didn't know he'd later use it against me. I kept hoping the old version of him would come back. But he didn't. And every time I excused the bad moments, he got a little bolder. Looking back, I think I knew. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. It didn't happen all at once. It was slow, like fog creeping in. At first, I thought maybe I was just being sensitive. When I tried to tell Luke I felt hurt or confused, he'd look at me like I was a problem. If I asked for more time together, he'd sigh and say I was being clingy. If I got upset about something, he'd laugh and call me dramatic. "I can't breathe with all your emotions," he said one day when I asked why he was ignoring my text. When I cried, he rolled his eyes. "You're too needy," he said. "I'm not your therapist." It started to feel like everything I did was wrong. I tried to be more quiet, more careful, less emotional. I thought maybe if I was easier to be around, he'd be the sweet person I first met. But no matter how gentle I tried to be, I was always too much. One day, I was cleaning up his desk while he was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I was just tidying. His laptop was open, and I saw a message pop up. A woman had sent a heart emoji. I paused unsure. Then I saw more messages in the chat history. Flirty words. Inside jokes. She called him babe. My heart started pounding. When he came out, I asked him who she was. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're crazy. That's my cousin. I told you about her." I had never heard that name before. Still, I backed down. I wanted to believe him. I didn't want to be the jealous girlfriend. I told myself maybe I just forgot. Maybe I was wrong. That started to happen more often. I'd see something strange, feel like something was off, and when I asked, he'd make me feel stupid. "You always twist things," he said once. "You imagine problems just to start fights." Soon I began to doubt my own thoughts. I'd stare at messages and wonder if I had misunderstood. I'd replay conversations in my head, trying to remember if he really said what I thought he said. I stopped talking to my friends about it. Some of them had told me they didn't like the way Luke treated me. I stopped seeing them as much. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to feel like a fool. I started keeping a small notebook. I didn't plan to, but one day I opened a blank page and wrote down a sentence. "He said I'm making things up again." After that, I wrote every time I felt confused or hurt. Every time he said something that didn't sit right. Every time I wondered if I was losing my mind. It was the only place I could be honest. The notebook became my secret friend. I didn't even tell Luke about it. I kept it in my bag or under my pillow. When I felt small, when he said I was overthinking or imagining things, I would read old entries. They reminded me that I wasn't making it all up. But even then, I kept quiet. I smiled when I needed to. I told people we were fine. I held his hand in front of others. I told myself I was strong, that I could fix this. That maybe I just needed to be more patient, more understanding. But deep inside, something didn't feel right anymore. And no matter how much I tried to ignore it, that feeling was only growing. One afternoon, I was cleaning the apartment while Luke was out running errands. His laptop was on the table, still open. I usually didn't touch it, but the screen kept going black and lighting up again with notifications. It was distracting. I went to close the lid, but something stopped me. A strange feeling, like a whisper in my chest saying, "Look." I told myself I was just checking to make sure nothing was wrong. But deep down, I think I already knew. I opened the mail app. At first, I didn't see much. Just work emails, promotions, boring stuff. Then I noticed the trash folder. I clicked. That's when I saw them. There were emails between him and someone named Alyssa. Not just one or two, there were dozens. The subject lines were flirty, playful. I opened a few. My hands started to shake. It wasn't work-related. It was personal. Too personal. "Wish I could sneak over today," one message read. "Last night was amazing," another one said. This wasn't his cousin. This wasn't friendly. This was cheating. I sat there, reading line after line, my heart pounding in my chest. It felt like someone had poured cold water down my back. For a moment, I didn't move. I just stared at the screen. I thought I might throw up. But instead of crying, I felt something different. I felt calm. I took out my phone and started taking screenshots. Every message, every subject line, every timestamp. I emailed them to myself, using my private account. I even saved copies on a flash drive, just in case. Then I deleted the trash folder, just like he had before. I closed the laptop, placed it exactly where it had been, and stood up. I looked around the room. Everything looked the same, but everything had changed. I didn't scream. I didn't call him. I didn't even send a message. I smiled. When he came home, I hugged him. I asked him how his day was. He kissed me on the cheek and told me he missed me. I told him I missed him too. I played the part, and he had no idea. Not even a clue. But inside, I was done pretending. I wasn't going to beg for answers or cry on the floor. Not this time. I had spent too many nights doubting myself. I had believed him when he told me I was overreacting. I had questioned my own heart. But now I had proof. Cold, clear, undeniable proof. He didn't just lie. He made me feel crazy for thinking something was wrong. He looked me in the eye, again and again, and made me believe I was the problem. I knew I couldn't trust him, but I also knew I couldn't just walk away. Not yet. He thought he was clever, erasing his messages. He thought I would never find out, but he didn't know who he was really dealing with. I decided I would wait. Wait for the right moment. Wait until he felt safe. Until he believed he had full control. Then I would show him exactly what I found. Not with shouting or tears, but with facts. I would show him the truth. In front of people who mattered to him. I wasn't going to let him explain it away this time. There would be no escape, no cover-up, no smooth talking. He once told me I was too emotional, too soft, but soon he'd learn what it feels like when that softness turns into strength, and he would remember it for the rest of his life. Our anniversary was coming up. Luke was more excited than usual. He said he wanted to plan something big. A fancy dinner with all our close friends, a few coworkers, and even his parents. He said we should celebrate properly this year. I just nodded and smiled. He had no idea that I already knew the truth. He didn't know I had seen the emails. He didn't know I had saved every message, every word. He thought everything was fine, that I was still in the dark, that I still believed the lies. He wanted to show the world how perfect we were, how happy we looked together. He didn't know that I had something different in mind. When he told me about the dinner, I said it was a great idea. I helped him pick the restaurant. I helped choose the guest list. I even helped him write the group message to invite everyone. I played my part like always. He told me he wanted to give a short speech that night. Something sweet and romantic. Just a few words, he said. To show everyone how lucky I am. I smiled and said, that sounds lovely. But inside, I was planning something else. I offered to make a small slideshow to play during dinner. Just for fun, I said. Some memories from our time together. Luke liked the idea right away. He said it would be cute. I said I'd take care of it. At night, when he was asleep, I sat at my laptop. I looked through old photos, vacations, birthdays, quiet moments at home. I picked the nicest one. Us laughing, holding hands, smiling like nothing was wrong. I put them in the slideshow one by one. Then, at the end, I added something different. A few screenshots. Not many. Just enough. One of his emails. One message from her. One photo he sent. I didn't need to say much. The words would speak for themselves. I didn't want to scare or shock people. I just wanted the truth to come out. I checked every detail. The timing. The order. The last slide. It would all be perfect. As the day got closer, Luke got more excited. He told everyone how much he loved me. He made jokes about how emotional I could be. She'll probably cry during the toast, he said to a friend on the phone. I heard him from the other room. I just smiled. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel nervous. I felt calm. I knew what I was doing. He thought he had the perfect night planned. But this time, I was the one writing the ending. The night of the dinner came. The restaurant was beautiful. Soft lights, candles on every table, and quiet music playing in the background. Everything looked perfect. Luke made sure of that. He wore his best shirt and greeted everyone with hugs and smiles. He looked proud, like this was his big moment. Friends and coworkers filled the room. His parents sat near the front, chatting happily. Everyone was laughing, drinking, enjoying the evening. Luke kept his arm around me, whispering sweet things in my ear. To anyone watching, we looked like the perfect couple. He stood up after dinner to give his speech. He tapped his glass gently and smiled. Everyone turned to listen. I just want to say how lucky I am, he began. She's beautiful, smart, and full of feelings. He looked at me and smiled wider. Sometimes a little too full of feeling. The room laughed softly. She cries at movies, commercials, and even when the toast is too warm. More laughter. I nodded and smiled like I was used to it. He continued, talking about how we met, our favorite trips, the little things he loved about me. Everyone looked touched. It was the kind of speech people dream about. When he was done, people clapped. He kissed my cheek and sat down, still smiling. I stood up slowly. Thank you for the sweet words, I said, facing the room. I made something too. Just a short video. Some memories I thought we could all enjoy. Luke's smile froze just a little. I walked to the screen the restaurant had set up and pressed play on the remote. The lights dimmed slightly. The slideshow began. The first photos were soft and sweet. Us at the beach. A selfie on a rainy day. Him cooking while I laughed in the background. Everyone smiled and watched. Then the screen changed. A screenshot appeared. I swear she cries just to get her way, LOL. The message read. The room went quiet. Another image. A message from him to someone else. Can't wait to see you again. She's so annoying when she talks about her dreams. Gasps filled the air. Someone dropped their fork. Another slide. A close-up of an email from him to a woman named Alyssa. Last night was perfect. I wish I could wake up next to you every day. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I just stood there, letting everyone read the truth for themselves. Luke stood up fast. Okay, that's enough, he said, laughing nervously. She's joking, right? I turned to him and said softly, no jokes. Just passion, right? He looked around the room. His parents looked shocked. His friends were whispering. One of his co-workers stood up and walked out. She had been in one of the screenshots. Luke started to speak again, but no one was listening anymore. I picked up my bag and looked at the room. "Thank you all for coming," I said. I walked past Luke without looking back. Behind me, someone started clapping. Then another. I didn't know who they were. I just kept walking. My hands weren't shaking. My voice hadn't cracked. I didn't cry. I walked out into the night, feeling the cool air on my face. It was the first time in a long time that I felt free. The video began playing on the screen. Everyone watched with soft smiles as the first photos showed up. Pictures of us laughing on vacation, sharing food, standing by the beach, hugging under a blanket. They looked like happy memories. People around the room smiled, some even whispered, "Ah!" Luke leaned back in his chair, looking pleased. He probably thought this was part of the surprise for him. His friends clapped softly between photos. His parents looked proud. Then the next slide appeared. A screenshot of a message in bold letters. "I swear she cries just to manipulate me, lol." The room went silent. A few people leaned forward, confused. Others looked at Luke, waiting for him to explain. I stayed standing, calm and quiet. "That's what he texted another woman 3 weeks ago," I said softly. I clicked to the next slide. More messages. "I can't stand when she talks about her feeling. It's like babysitting an emotional sponge." Laughter was gone now. No one smiled anymore. One of Luke's co-workers covered her mouth in shock. Another looked straight at him, eyes wide. Slide after slide, more messages showed. Flirty texts. Inside jokes with another woman. Complaints about me. Private chats. One message said, "I pretend to listen to her, but I mute the phone half the time." A voice recording started to play. Luke's voice. "She's too much. Always crying, always thinking something's wrong. I feel like I'm stuck with a child." People looked uncomfortable. Some stared at the floor. Others looked straight at Luke. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. His face was pale. His smile was gone. I didn't say much. I let the video speak for itself. One message showed him setting up a secret meeting with the other woman. The date was just days before this dinner. Another showed him joking about how easy it was to lie to me. Nobody laughed now. Luke stood up, trying to stop the video. "Okay, this is getting out of hand," he said. "She's taking things out of context." But no one believed him anymore. He turned to me. "You don't have to do this here." I looked him in the eye and said, "I didn't do anything. You did." I let the last slide stay on the screen. A simple message from me. Believe people when they show you who they really are. The room stayed quiet. I picked up my purse and took one last look around. Most people avoided eye contact. Some looked angry. A few nodded at me, small signs of support. I turned and walked out slowly, not in a rush. Luke didn't follow. He stayed behind, surrounded by silence and the truth. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't need to. The truth was louder than anything I could have said. After the last slide showed on the screen, the room stayed quiet. No one moved. The soft music from earlier had stopped. The only sound was the faint hum of the projector. Luke looked around, clearly nervous now. He let out a short, fake laugh. "Okay, this is all a joke, right?" he said, glancing at me. "She's just being dramatic." No one laughed with him. I opened my bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were printed copies of the messages, emails, and screenshots. I placed the folder on the table in front of him. "If anyone wants proof," I said calmly, "you can read it yourself." Luke didn't touch the papers. His hands stayed frozen on the table. His parents stared at him, mouths slightly open. His mother looked like she was about to cry. His father shook his head slowly, disappointed. One of his friends picked up a few pages and read a message out loud, then looked at Luke. "Seriously, man?" he asked. "You said all this stuff about her?" Luke didn't answer. He just stared at the papers, his face pale. The woman he had been texting, the one in some of the screenshots, was also at the dinner. She stood up without saying a word, grabbed her purse, and walked out fast. Her heels clicked loudly as she left. No one stopped her. Luke tried to say something again. "I mean, it's not what it looks like. You guys don't know the whole story." But everyone had seen enough. No one asked me to stay. No one told me to stop. I didn't cry or look back. I picked up my coat, said nothing, and walked toward the door. As I reached the exit, I heard one person clap. Then another. It was quiet, not loud or dramatic, just a soft show of support. Then I heard a voice say clearly, "Honestly?" He had that coming. I didn't stop walking. The cool night air outside felt fresh. I stood for a moment, breathing slowly. My hands were steady. My heart felt lighter. Inside, Luke would have to face all of them. He would have to explain the messages, the lies, and why he treated someone who loved him like that. That wasn't my problem anymore. I walked away from the restaurant, not rushing. I didn't need to run from anything. I had shown the truth. I had nothing to hide. Let him deal with the mess he made. For the first time in a long while, I felt proud of myself. Not for getting revenge, but for standing up and saying, "Enough." and I knew that whatever came next, I'd be okay. After the dinner, I blocked Luke's number. Still, he tried to contact me. He sent long texts, short messages, voice notes filled with fake apologies. I didn't reply. I didn't open the messages. I didn't need to hear more lies. Every day for a week, he kept trying. He called from other numbers. He even emailed me. He said he missed me. He said he didn't mean what he said. But I remembered everything. I remembered how small I felt with him, how I used to doubt myself because of his words. I didn't want to go back to that feeling. One night, I sat on my bed and opened my laptop. I wrote out the whole story, what he did, how I found out, and how I showed the truth. I didn't use real names. I just wanted to share it. I posted it on a forum where people talk about their life experiences. Then I closed my laptop and went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to hundreds of comments. People were shocked, kind, supportive. Many shared their own stories. Others said they were proud of me for standing up. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt heard. I wasn't alone. More and more people read the story. It spread fast. A few friends from my past reached out. Some I hadn't spoken to in years. They said they missed me. They said they wished they had spoken up when they saw how Luke treated me. I forgave them. I was just happy to feel real connection again. I also made a decision to take care of myself. I signed up for therapy. I wanted to talk to someone about everything. Not just about Luke, but about how I lost parts of myself while trying to keep him happy. The therapist listened without judging. Slowly, I started to understand my own feelings better. One afternoon, I walked past a small art studio. I used to love painting, but I had stopped because Luke said it was a waste of time. I stood outside the studio for a while, then walked in. I signed up for a weekend class. On the first day, I was nervous, but once I picked up the brush, I felt calm. Creating something with my hands made me feel strong again. Each day got a little better. I didn't miss Luke. I didn't miss the fake smiles or the constant worry. I missed the old me, the one who felt deeply and loved without fear. And slowly, I was finding her again. I used to think being emotional was something bad. Luke said it all the time. He told me I was too sensitive, too soft, too dramatic. I started to believe him. I thought maybe I really was the problem. But now I see things clearly. My feelings were never the problem. The problem was how he treated them, how he used them to make me feel small. I feel deeply. I care fully. I cry when I'm hurt, and I laugh when I'm happy. That's not weakness. That's honesty. That's being alive. Luke couldn't understand that. He was scared of anything real. He couldn't handle truth, and he couldn't handle love unless it was easy and quiet. After everything that happened, I sat down and wrote something for myself. I wrote, he called me crazy for feeling things. So I showed him what truth looks like when it's finally let out. That line stayed with me. It reminded me of the moment I stood up and shared the truth. No shouting, no tears. Just truth. And that was enough. One evening, my phone buzzed. It was a message from someone I had recently met. Just a kind check-in. Nothing serious. But I smiled. It felt different. There was no pressure, no weight, no fear of being judged. Just someone who wanted to know how my day was. I didn't jump into anything. I didn't need to. But for the first time in a long while, I felt open. I felt hopeful. Not just about someone new, but about myself. About my future. I opened my contacts, scrolled to Luke's name, and stared at it for a few seconds. There was no anger in me. Just peace. I tapped delete. His name disappeared. It felt like closing a book I no longer needed to read. I'm not the same person I was before. I'm stronger now, but not because I stopped feeling. I'm stronger because I allowed myself to feel everything. Pain, joy, betrayal, and healing. I didn't hide. I didn't run. I faced it all and came out whole. He said I was too emotional. Maybe I am. But that's my strength. That's my light. Some people might never understand it, and that's okay. I don't need to be less to make someone else more comfortable. He didn't break me. He helped me find the part of myself I was told to hide. And now I know for sure. I'm not too emotional. He was just too afraid of being seen. Do you think she did the right thing by exposing Luke in front of everyone, or should she have handled it more privately? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy stories like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new one.